Hey, Arrow, good morning. I like your name, man. It's awesome.
It's just one of those actors' names. Did you ever sit down and do something like that when you were a kid, going, okay, if I could be anybody, who would I like to be?
Yeah, it's really cool.
It's like living in the metaverse without that even happening yet. I mean, because once you step inside those shoes, it's like, wow, this universe is a pretty cool hangout.
Totally.
How did you get yourself involved in the Retaliators in the way that because this movie is very physical, but at the same time, it's very emotional.
Well, thank you. Yeah, so sort of like you want the origin of how got the script and everything. Is that what you're
and
asking?
and the building of your mind, body, and soul. Because I know that you did some studying to get that role of the pastor. You didn't just step into that and just say a bunch of words. You really, and I felt it when you did it, that you were not just sitting there saying words.
Oh man, thank you so much. Yeah, I can go into like the acting part of it and how I jumped into character and it was a long time like sort of brewing. I had some time with the script, and when I read the script, I really loved it, and I really the character just made a big impression on me. And this whole question of, if you had a minute alone with the person who killed your loved one, would you
Mm.
take it? That provocative question, but then telling it through a man of the cloth and this guy I thought was really interesting. So without getting too actory on you, I can tell you a little bit of the research that I did. The first thing was I started, it's a revenge tale, right? And it's
Mhm.
this primal instinct. It's like saber-toothed tiger attacks a caveman's kids. The clan goes out and hunts them, right? It's the oldest story in the book, and I started dipping around on like YouTube and just fun, very first step in. It goes way deeper than this, and I found this video of this guy. He's like was very small in stature. It's a true story. He looked like a math teacher, right? And
Mhm.
he's there, and he has his moment to say his words with the person who killed his son in court at the end, and the court police are on his side, and he's talking, and then he lets out this like primal scream from the depths of his soul,
Mm.
and it gave me goosebumps. And he jumps at the guy and tries to start stabbing him with a pencil, and the court police have to pull him back, but you can see how they almost want to let him go. And I was like, whoa. And it really was my first shoe in to the understanding that having that moment facing that person, and them taking someone away that you'll never see again.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think, what's helpful, Arrow, too, is if I have a 6-year-old son, so you have to do some really crazy imaginary, work with that, which isn't the best place to be, but you need to find these so you can just sort of, act truthfully in the imaginary circumstance. So you have to go there. And then, I also, the guy's a pastor, right? So
Yeah.
I said, well, wait a minute. He's a pastor, but maybe he had something bad happen to him that made him a pastor. That's why he turned to the cloth, because then when he turns, that's pretty tough in this movie, right? So I wanted to make it that he was more choosing to be passive at the beginning in this person, but he had something, inside that can turn him. So I did all this backstory and homework, and it's like, look, maybe he was in a bar fight when he was 18 and he really hurt someone. You know what I mean? Like maybe he really hurt someone, and then he met his wife because now he's a single dad, right, with 2 daughters. So maybe he met his wife, and her dad was a pastor, and that turned him into religion and being a good person, and he spent time reflecting upon the damage that he'd done. So now he's good. And then what happened to her? Because that's never told in the
Yeah.
story. So I made up a circumstance, something suddenly, and now he's left with his 2 daughters who remind him of his late wife. And now let the story begin.
When
So they're just multi-layers there.
when you go into those multi layers, though, because I know as a voice, even as a voiceover actor, you still have to step into that role. And to me, I guess my heart isn't callous enough. How do you keep it from poisoning the mind in a situation? Because you're bringing. Look, we've seen the scenes in the Retaliators and stuff like that. Did you daily write afterwards to help bring peace back into yourself?
You want to know what's crazy? I think that I did a lot of the homework, right? And
Yeah.
I prepared. And then it was so crazy on set. I also produced on this, and it was so stressful, man. You're always putting out fires. And when I'm on set, no matter what I'm doing, I try to pull something that will help me in the scene, right? Also, because you could make up anything before. It doesn't even if you don't have a kid in this, you could just make up something that brings you to that emotional response. And it's always about the pinch, never the ouch, right? So you want to find what it is. You don't want to just stand there and be false, right? So you find something and then you just go and don't think about it again. That's the thing. You find it and then you just listen and answer in the scene and throw your lines out. Wow. Anyway, there was so much stress, man, with COVID and long hours. And then after 12, 14-hour days, I'd have to get back to the hotel, take long, hot showers on some days to not only clean the character off, but like the fake blood and stuff in some circumstances. And, it was lack of sleep. It was stress. We got shut down a couple times from the Screen Actors Guild, rightfully so, because there was so much concern early on. We were doing all the proper protocols. There was just, fire alarms everywhere. So all that stress and not sleeping, I was able to draw upon that for the character as well, to be honest, in the moment, and use it. You use whatever you have.
That's what I love about living in the moment. I call it stream thinking, stream acting. It's taking what is in your present place and building upon it and basically just trusting it.
That's right, man. And again, luckily it worked, not like sort of being sleep deprived. Look where this guy goes and all that stuff, right? Yeah. So I really was, but it was just because when you're trying to run a 50-person crew and bring a movie across the finish line with investors and, it's a wonderful, great responsibility. I would never complain. I'm not digging ditches here, but there is stress involved. And it was everything to me when I found this script. I'm like, I love the writing. I want to make the movie now. So it's one thing to love the script, but then you got to shoot it, right? And then you got to edit it. So at the end of the day, you're lucky if you end up with the script that you fell in love with, that you actually get on the screen. So
sitting across from the killer. Okay, that reminds me of one of the things that I've always wanted to ask these people that do these murder mystery novels and stuff like that. Would you ever, as the author, put yourself up there on the stand and say that you do not know who the murderer is, and then have the lawyer go, but you do, you wrote the story?
Yeah. Now tell me, there are a couple things struck me when you said that. What's your angle here of this?
A murder mystery novel author, they know who the killer is. But yet you sit there as a reader going, oh, my God, who is it? Who is it? But the author knows. Why isn't the author on the stand? Why aren't they being questioned?
Yeah. Wow, that's really interesting. Holy shit. Yeah.
But see, that's what I love about writing too, is the fact that you can put yourself in any situation. When teachers, they teach the children to read, also teach them to write. Let them understand that their imaginations are just as important.
Oh man, it's so true. It's cool because my son came to set a few times too, and they were like all these scary, what we call subhumans in the movie. And it was so fun for him to be able to see that. And his imagination runs wild. It's pretty fun to see some behind the scenes stuff, and the movie is such a wink at the 80s, right? Mm-hmm. When I read it, I was like, those movies of the 80s and 90s. I immediately thought of the Lost Boys, the Spielbergian Dante-esque Gremlins-y beginning, the small town. And then this crazy, I even saw elements of like graphic novel, Sin City in the movie, but I love the slow burn in the story. And then this Tarantino-ish crazy third act with a nod at Evil Dead. And so when I got that, and the music jumped off the page. So that's another important element, like all those great movies, like I mentioned Lost Boys earlier, The Crow, Judgment Night, we were lucky enough to get all these incredible bands and this amazing soundtrack in. So when I was referring to my boy earlier, like he got to meet a lot of these musicians and hear this amazing music. So it's been a heck of an experience,
I've always believed that musicians and actors share somewhat the same stage. And I'm so glad that you brought the musicians in on this because, that one of the things that Wolfman Jack and Elvis Presley had a problem with was that Elvis had he wasn't like Wolfman in the way that he didn't have a stage to go to every day, where Wolfman had that stage. They didn't like each other because of that. And Elvis needed that performance. I think musicians are the same way, are they not?
Yeah, you know what's crazy? So we had all these musicians. A guy named Alan Kovac. He's like a legendary music manager. He backed me on the film. He's the founder and CEO of Better Noise Music, which represents 40 huge rock bands, including Motley Crue, Five Finger Death Punch, Papa Roach, on and on. Right? He had Meatloaf, the Bee Gees in the day. He's amazing. So I brought him the script and he goes, "Let's do this." So he gives me all of his musicians' contacts. He goes, "Look, I want this guy in the band. I want this guy. I like this song. I think this song would work," after he read the script. And we're like, so I called them all, spoke with them about the parts. We were very careful in casting who's where, because I also wanted this to be a film first. I really, really didn't want to leech off like the core audience, which is incredible that we have it, but I want to give them a real movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I want also real movie goers and lovers of the genre to like the movie and then see, oh my God, wait, that guy, the bad guy, Quinn Brady, that's played by Jacoby Shaddix. I thought he was just an actor. He's the lead singer of Papa Roach, you know? So the point that I'm getting at is like Five Finger Death Punch, all these big, burly, tatted up guys with dreaded beards. They're so good. Ivan Moody, the lead singer, he's a scary dude. He's a sweetheart, but he has it. And they all did their homework. We talked before they got on set. They knew their objective of their characters. They were all wonderful. And they're storytellers, right? Through their music. So maybe on screen, you just have to pull it back a little bit and put it behind your eyes more and keep it in there. But they were all, and I'm not just saying this, they were amazing. And their performances are really awesome in this. And the cool part is now their songs are on the soundtrack. So we have both.
Well, see,
yeah, they were all incredible.
That to me is like the new age video game. You know, put the music and stuff on the movie so that it can carry their music as well forward.
Yes, 100.
So now, is it my imagination that you planted Easter eggs in this so that people will keep coming back to this movie to see if they can spot the egg that got them up to the next part of the story?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. I love the kind of storytelling, and it's a testament of the writers and the writing and how good it is, that you want to always be catching up. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I love that you're trying to catch up as you're watching and you're following, and then hopefully it comes together at the end and you have some questions afterward. I think at the end of the day, it's a fun popcorn movie, you know, but I also think there are the questions of morality, religion, justice, and you could talk about it a little bit. Mm-hmm. But those Easter eggs are definitely planted in there. There's a lot of winks here and there, and there's a lot of fun little things that were purposely in. I think we mix genres a little bit. We have a little fun with this one.
Yeah, you're reading my notes, aren't you? Because I have right here in the center of this page, the film crosses into several genres. Is it a faith-based horror film? I mean, you just stole that totally from my notes here.
Well, see, that means so much to me that you took it as that, right? So that means I'm like, look, you know, it's hard for me to say this. I'm so proud of the movie because it's been like a family member, right? I've worked on this thing 3 years, but I said earlier, when you read a script, you want to try to make that, and you got to deal with, on top of COVID, egos, COVID, does someone get this person doesn't get that concept, and you really try to fight for it. It's all about the work. But those things that moved you, and when we had a pretty good run at the festival, so I have been able to hear a few things, and I've been like, wow, I can't believe that they're actually taking that away, because it really was in the original concept. And, you know, Darren Gear, one of the writers, the Gear brothers, he and I really fought hard for this stuff. You know, I was the guy, my feet were on the ground fighting every day, but to have that shoulder to lean on, I believe that if you have access to the writers, you use them, you know, as much as possible. I was on a show called Rescue Me. It was about New York City firefighters. Yeah. Dennis Leary co-created the show. So he's also produced, starred. So I realized how much I learned from him, actually, and was able to apply now. I did 100 episodes of the show with the guy, and I'm able to bring this to now producing and acting in this movie. But there are a lot of fights and battles you have to have. But yeah, and then, you know, look, at the end of the day, here's the other part. The movie's not for everyone, and that's cool to me, because I don't want to make a movie that everyone likes, because then, you know, then that's not my style of movie. That then I don't. And the thing is, I feel like at the end of the day, for what this film is, I can say, hey, you know, this is what I set out to make, and you know, hopefully people enjoy it. And, maybe you do walk away, like I said, talking about it a little bit. But I think with the music and how crazy it is, you'll be entertained, right?
Yeah. You talk about putting so much energy into it, 3 years of your life into it. I know as a writer and things like that, that when I set out to write a book, I know I'm going to disappear for 2.5, 3 years. So that becomes your soundtrack. It becomes your lifestyle. In the real world, how do you explain that to people going, I was off doing a movie. Oh my God. Well, while we were listening to Justin Bieber, you were doing this movie.
Well, what's hard is I do wear, like, I've been told, and you try to understand yourself as a human being, as complicated and complex as it is. I do kind of wear my heart on my sleeve. I'm a pretty transparent dude. So when people ask me, I try not to go into these deep stories. You know what I mean? I really do. There's the stories run so deep of this. So I talk about it a little bit. I don't think I've ever talked about a project that I've been involved with quite this much. Not that I haven't been equally as proud as some others, but it's just consumed me, like you said, producing, directing, acting, and living, eating, breathing this thing. There was never a dull moment with COVID, and it's just been who I am. And so I do. It's funny because you want to tell the story to people who you care about or you think care about you, but I do say some things, and then I'm like, there's just so many proud moments. There's so many down moments. I've learned so much, man. So I can never tell it all. So I just have to be okay with what I do get to. Someone's lucky if I'm lucky enough for them to listen. You know what I mean? So
I do.
It's crazy.
There's so many iconic things that happen inside this movie. First of all, I want to talk about that poster. That poster is iconic, and it needs to be marketed. Are you guys going to do that?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's got that whole sort of Drew Struzan. He was the guy who, invented that sort of style that's so popular with Stranger Things. And I think it was Black Sabbath he did first, the real guy. And then that's been brought back. Well, thank you. Yeah, that is our key art, and that whole logo, the Retaliators logo. And it was something, again, that the writer and I wanted and imagined from the beginning. So we found this artist, and we're really pleased because, again, these things that we had from day one, whether it was the tagline or the idea, the thoughts, when we were just like fanboying, geeking out, me and the writer, like, oh, dude, the Stranger Things guy kind of vibe. Oh, and get this. Here's what's crazy. Yeah, it all happened somehow. I'm serious. Like, I can't tell you like the crazy stories when you ask about this just to get it to the finish line. But you know what else? The Stranger Things guys, we got to score this movie. Kyle Dixon and Michael Stein. They scored it on top of this awesome soundtrack. Yeah. Remember I said the wink at the 80s and stuff. They're like a dream score, right? and they watched The Rough and they did it. So they're on it as well.
I love that you talk so highly about the writer. And one of the things, now, who came up with this line? Because this is a very powerful line. I expect to see this on T-shirts. I've got the God, John. I've got the God, John. And when I heard that, I was like, oh, my God, that has impact.
Yeah, what's funny is, so the writers and I know these guys, the Gear Brothers, for a long time. We used to write music together, actually. I had a little record deal with MySpace Records back in the day, in the early 2000s to mid 2000s. And they did too. So my music manager at the time, we used to write music, and our creative instincts and were just so aligned, the way we just really loved one another. So we used to write, and then I didn't speak with them for a lot of years. I was on the East Coast or on the West Coast, connected with them, and they said, we've been writing scripts. So I said, send them to me. I got the Retaliators. So anyway, there's a lot of good juicy lines in there. Like I told you, when I read this thing, all the different elements that popped out, like, this graphic novel, Sin City vibe, this slow burn. It almost has a Western Charlie Bronson Death Wish into this nod to the Evil Dead. And I was like, Darren, and I'm going on this monologue about it. I feel this. Oh my God. The bad guy's like, he's the Terminator, dude. Like, he doesn't have to say anything. I love that. Right. And, he's like, yeah, you got it. Yeah. Whoa. And again, there were so many good zingers in there of lines too. Another one, the one you said is like amazing. And then only complicit men take secrets to the grave.
Yes.
That's another heavy one, right? And then I don't know if we can say it on air, but look at this stuff. It's as white as Snow White's ass cheeks, right? That one, that's a funny line too. When he's the guy, the drug dealers dealing with the so there's some funny stuff like that. And again, I think what I love too is the movie at times doesn't take itself too seriously, you know, although we touch upon some serious topics, and it does at times, and it's story driven and hopefully actor driven, but there are some fun moments too.
Well, the title alone, I think, is going to stop people. And first of all, I need to ask Bill. Bill, we started early. Do we get to go late?
You can go until whenever Michael wants to go.
Oh, am I keeping you too long, Michael? Because I want to talk about the title.
Yeah, let's go.
Retaliators is one of those words that's going to stop people because it's not a word that we see in the everyday world. They're going to be going retailer, but I love that you are using the physical presence of a word to stop people.
Jeez. And you know, it's funny because all these things sort of like that, you articulated it well. And I was just always like, the Retaliators, dude, that is sick, right? That's literally, that was like my first, like, wow. And again, it had the whole vibe again that like the Gear Brothers and I just, you know, we love this stuff. And I was like the Retaliators. And there's so many things like for the opening monologue of the film, I do that. My character does this, you know, maybe it's better to keep evil alive. And this whole monologue, right? It starts. And what's funny for me is someone said to me, man, that was so Coen brother-esque, right? And the writer said that after I recorded it. I recorded it on my phone and sent it to the post-production house. And they were like, you know, I never said, oh, I'm going to do this like the Coen brothers. But yet that's built into sort of my DNA from being a fan and, you know, the timing of the way they deliver. And when I read the words, I'm like, this is the way this needs to be said. But I think that's true of the way they wrote and the way they came up with the Retaliators and different, like you should talk to them because they're really wonderful at expressing their inspirations and meticulously why they called it that. We know because it's a revenge tale, right?
Yeah.
But I think you just gather what you're inspired by in life and what you're fans of, and then you just come up with stuff. So it was, it's pretty cool because all these things that you're sort of picking up on, and again, everyone won't, but people who are moved and inspired by the stuff we like will, right?
Yep. This is the first step of a brand new beginning in the way that the WWE has taken the wrestlers and made them into actors. Are we going to start seeing a series of musicians stepping into roles? I mean, this right here, like I said, this right here could be the first step of a brand new beginning for you.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think it's been done, right? It's been done many times, but what I thought was really important here is it has to be the right project.
Yep.
And it has to be done in a way that's non-gratuitous. And I think the beauty here, as I mentioned, Alan Kovac and Better Noise Music, that he has such deep relationships and he's been doing this for so long with these bands and they hold him in such high regard and they trust what they're getting involved with, that they're okay with, you know, the part that they were given. I mean, obviously they accepted the role after they read the script, and some of them I'd talk through the whole story, and, you know, so I think, like, you know, that can work, but you can't try to pop Tommy Lee in the movie because you're trying to, you know, make a few bucks, you know, and pay him so much for the day. I don't like that, and I never wanted the movie to be that. But again, I was fortunate to have Alan behind me. So I think it can work, but I think it has to be very carefully thought out. It's got to be the right platform, and a lot of things have to come together to make it work.
Wow. Dude, you got to come back to this show anytime in the future. The door is always going to be open for you.
Thanks, man. Now, speaking of that, if I get my band back together and we call ourselves the Retaliators, maybe I can go the other way, right?
Absolutely.
But, no, I was joking with Alan about that a few times, but it's been fun, man. Thank you so much.
Well, you get that band back together and you come back here and we have a conversation. You'll have a different kind of interview because I love breaking down the lyrics. I love helping to share the story. And so many times the musicians will sit there and say, no, man, it's about your interpretation. I'm going, oh, I want to know the story. I want the inside sleeve, man. And so, yeah.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I've learned so much about these musicians, and I've always, admired and, called myself one. And, I used to have fun in bands and everything, but really unbelievable people, artists, human beings, storytellers. And, I've learned so much through this process, and I just think we learn every day. So I definitely came out a different person than going into this thing, no question. And what's really cool is like Monday night, I think Five Finger Death Punch is playing Jones Beach. I'm going to go and see them. And I'm so excited to see them. Yeah, there's like a great amphitheater there. So I'm excited to see them on stage, and see them doing their thing because, man, these guys are incredible. And they're all such pros. It takes a lot of work at the end of the day, no matter what you're doing. It's about the work. And you're lucky enough to be on stage for that hour or hour and a half, that full day. But man, the journey to get there, right?
So
it's
true.
tough.
It's like how does a raindrop become a tree, which becomes the paper that I put words on, becomes the script that you're going to turn into a movie. I mean, it's all part of the process.
That's right, man. Well said.
Well,
Yeah.
you be brilliant today, okay, sir?
Thank you so much. Have a great day. And I look forward to connecting, on another project at some point. So thank you for your time and have a great day.